Hello, Vol Nation. Welcome to another episode of Believe in Tennessee Football. I'm your host, as always, Kyler Kerberson, joined with Reed Bacon. He is back this week. Before we get into the entire podcast, please, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like, hit that notification bell. Please leave a comment. Also, we love to read the comments. We love to answer them. If you're listening, rate and review, leave 5 stars, download and re-download, and share with friends and family. Follow us on social media at Believe in Tennessee for our main account, at RBacon26 for Reed, at Kyler Kerberson for myself. But on this podcast, we are going to predict this season. What you guys been waiting for? How do we think these games are going to play out? What is going to be the end record for the Tennessee Volunteers? We let you know, and we have some different opinions on things. And Reed also chimes in on Rickey Gibson and Jordan Matthews from last week's pod and what he saw out of their film and what he thinks about those two guys coming in and being commits. So great podcast. Let's jump into it.
The game. Snap. The kick is in the air, and the kick this time is no, sir-ree. No, sir-ree. Final score. Tennessee 20, Florida 17. Pandemonium reigns.
Loads up, fires long for the end zone. The pass is going to be caught. Tennessee wins! Caught by Tennessee to one Jennings. Jennings makes the catch in the end zone on the Hail Mary.
Down at the 35, to the 40, to the 45, to the 50, to the 45, to the 40, to the 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. What did he do? All he did was score. Joey Pence, touchdown on play number 1.
All right, so before we get into the podcast, we got to shout out our number one sponsor, betonline.ag. You guys know I say it every podcast. It is the place to go for all your betting news and odds and sports, everything. This is the place, okay? With BetOnline, you get the most up-to-date fighting news. You get to bet on MLB games going on right now, NFL. I mean, you can bet on anything. Team total wins, division wins, individual players, all of it. Okay. So now is the time to sign up. At BetOnline, you can sign up on your mobile device, or you can go online, get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code BELIEVE at checkout. That's BLEAV. And you get that 50% welcome bonus. So listen, y'all, please use that. Please go to BetOnline when you're doing all your sports betting. It makes things a lot more fun and a lot more interesting. And I always love them. They're the place to go. BetOnline. It's where the game starts. All right. Welcome in, everybody. Have a great podcast ahead. And the main reason why is because I have my co-partner, my confidant, my best friend, Reed Bacon, back on the pod. Reed, how we doing, bud?
I am back. We are back.
That's
we are
right.
Getting our best friend Doug back. Did you catch that?
First, I want to start off with, some people thought Reed actually missed the pod because he chose golf over the podcast. I thought that was a very funny thing to say last week. And I also thought some of the stuff you guys wrote was very funny in the comments, which thank you for that. But Reed did not miss because of golf. There was a miscommunication about when we were recording. He just so happened to have a tea time going on when I thought we were recording. I didn't communicate that to Reed, so it just got mixed up. Plus, with the move, I think I just kind of forgot and recorded by myself. So that's why. So no one actually get mad at Reed. But Reed, you can go ahead and defend your actions and tell us how you shot.
Well, first off, did you not even catch my awesome little thing that I just did?
What?
That I was waiting. You said, Reed, how you doing? And I started laughing because I was grouping up to say, I am back. We are back. We are getting our best friend Doug back.
Yeah, I danced along to it. I love that.
Well, because I was just watching, dude, the first Hangover, bro. I was watching it the other day, just on TV. It wasn't even like the actual version, but I was watching on TV. It is so freaking funny. I love that. I mean, there's so many parts I love, but one of my underrated parts is when they're singing, what's his name? Stu gets down, he starts singing, and he's like, and then we're gonna find our best friend Doug. And then you remember that? Do you remember that? He's like, Doug,
won't give him a best friend
hug. Doug. But if he's been murdered by some meth, whatever he says, cracked out tweaker. Anyways, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I also caught that you said your best friend, so don't think I didn't just catch that. So that is very nice. It just made my week. Yeah, it was. We had talked on Sunday of last week. It was like, hey, when do we think we're going to do it? Kyler was I could hear it in his voice. Kyler's one of the nicest people in the world, but I could hear in his voice that he was not 100%. And I say you're a nice person in the world because you are, but that also means you're always like giving your attention and all this stuff. But I could tell that you were a little preoccupied last week.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking
a garbage disposal head underneath the sink.
Yeah. And I was driving and I could hear that you weren't locked in. I was like, all right, so we're doing it Monday. And you're like, yeah, I guess we'll maybe try to do it Monday. I don't know. Because we didn't have to do one. Technically, we didn't know if we wanted to do one because we had done 2 the previous week. So anyways, we were like, all right, well, we might try to do one tomorrow. Like, kind of, hey, just let me know. Let's just talk to you tomorrow. And then we both go the entire day. I didn't hear from you. You didn't hear from me. So it was like 5:30 on a Monday. And I was like, well, I played terrible yesterday, so I'd kind of like to go work on my irons. And so Holston's closed.
Yeah.
My dad and I went down to the week course and just Williams Creek with the week course to play 9. And matter of fact, the last time I was there was with you and Tyler and my dad. So I hadn't been there forever. I love that course to go practice and play. But yeah, we were there, and then you texted, and you're like, you ready for 7:15? I was like, I'm on holes. And then I called you. I was like, I'm on holes. And I said I could make it back, but you were just ready to get the whole thing done.
Yeah, exactly. I was ready. I mean, like you said, I had just been moving for 2 days straight, so I was just like, I gotta get this done, get it over with, get it out, So, yes, so Reed was not actually avoiding doing the podcast.
And there were some, listen.
There were some funny comments.
I'm not going to say they were brutal. I'm just going to say, hey, if that's how people felt, they felt. I mean, I read some, and I think it's something that you would need to consider about doing the pod by yourself, because I think they enjoyed it better. I lost it laughing when someone said Reed's to-go order must be running late. I started cracking up. Very, very funny. And there were some other really funny ones too. And then I appreciate a couple of the ones that were like, no, we miss Reed, like, wish he would be back or whatever. So those were nice as well. But yeah, it was just it was funny to go through and read some of them.
I also liked one that said Reed needs his own segment on the podcast and call it Bacon Bits. Oh God, I can't remember who said that, but I died laughing when I read that.
Oh gosh,
all Bacon Bits.
Yeah, I got the pod pulled up. I got it pulled up here so I could read some of these, and and I try to always respond to them. But yeah, it was funny, and so no, I don't ever put really anything over the podcast, meaning besides actual stuff, important stuff. No, I would have never picked to play golf over this, to be there with my big fella. Anyways, some of my notes from last week's pod when I listened. First off, I thought you did a really good job. I thought I was listening to an audiobook of you describing the plays. So instead of, besides talking about the players, you were also giving a lot of detailed rundowns of plays, which we do that sometimes, but it might be a little bit quicker. But I was like, Kyler should maybe like sell his voice just reading books, because I was like, I feel like that's what I was listening to. So that's one thing I was listening to.
Yeah, you're not quite used to the pauses in between things. That's not quite how you talk.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot of pause. I try to just get everything out there quick. So it was great how you were telling the story of this play and that play. I loved, it was so funny. I'll talk about Rickey and Jordan here in a second, but like talking about Jordan and the play, like, of course, that one screen, if people have watched this film that you were talking about when he came off and made the play on the screenplay. And I was happy that you mentioned that. And I knew you were going to mention that. Like we just watch most of the time, 90% of the time, 85% of the time, we watch film and see the game the same way. Yeah. I hated it that I wasn't on there to go back and forth with you, because it is two defensive backs and stuff like that. But yeah, I thought you did a really good job with the pod. And obviously there was a lot of people that, someone said best pod ever. some people really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, it was good listening to you, but it did, what the good thing was, it definitely showed me that like I still really do enjoy this, even though there are times where I'm like, I think we both get that way.
It's tough. I'm telling you what, consistency and like doing it every week has been the toughest thing, is like finding the time to do it, making sure you write up the post, editing all this stuff, just like doing the research, looking into stuff. Sometimes it's like, oh God, like I get to a Sunday and I'm like, oh gosh, okay, when am I going to be able to do this? When can I fit this in? And it's very, anxious you get, but I always have a good feeling like once we're actually recording and talking together. And then I always have a good feeling once I put it out and I see the comments and I see how many people watch and listen. Like it always makes you feel good. So yes, there's some like up and downs throughout the week of it, but like Wednesday to Thursday, like I'm pretty happy about the podcast.
Yeah, no, and that's how it is. It's I just love doing it with you because we just get to stay in touch. And like I said, we would be having a lot of these conversations probably over a telephone about UT if it wasn't for doing this. So, and you're right, it is nice. Like the listeners that we do have, it's not like we're not crushing it, but we have a very, very good. Which we appreciate, loyal, nice little following, and we appreciate you guys very much for that. And yes, reading all that stuff, and yes, and then even when it comes out on Wednesday, I like to sit back and watch it like film, listen to where we say and talk and hear about it. So yeah, it is great. But let me just jump in to say that these two corners that we got, and I mean, I'm going to go back and watch Rickey's while we do this because I watched his and then I watched Jordan's, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about Jordan's now. It's probably it's hard for me to say because before this I wasn't going and watching a ton of highlight films. It just wasn't something I was doing when we signed somebody.
Yeah. But
I've been doing it, I guess, for a year now, so 2 years now. So I've seen enough highlight films of the past two classes. So take that for what it's worth. Like I said, I'm not watching a bunch of highlights every year of a bunch of just different kids, but this was probably I'll just say top three because I don't want to slight somebody or forget one that we've talked about, but I left this believing after watching Jordan Matthews, like, holy moly. Like I was like, it was so freaking impressive. And the thing that was so impressive about it, Kyler, is like everything he did just looked effortless. Like,
oh yeah.
So I love when Shaq says it's effortless for Steph Curry. I remember, I'm a Grizzlies fan, so I remember watching the Splash Bros come up like and start being something. And I remember when they, 2012 and 13, 14, and people were still kind of like, at the first little bit, they're like, whoa, what is this? And I just remember sitting back and watching how easy it was for Steph. And then Shaq started saying Steph, listen, that's how I felt about Jordan, was like everything he did was just easy. was just natural. And to make a position like corner look easy and natural, it's very, very special. And I have such a respect. I mean, if you can play corner really well, and if you can play quarterback really, really well, like I think it's a thing of beauty when you can watch film on anybody playing well. Hell, I can watch a center, and if I think a center's playing well, it's a thing of beauty. But a corner or a quarterback, how difficult that is. And a lot of corners look good in high school, but they might not even be that good. They might just look good because they're athletic and fast, and they're just playing a bunch of man coverage. So they can look pretty good. But like all the different stuff that Jordan does was special. And I appreciated that you read off some of the different stuff. I'm going to tell you the number one thing. First off, I'm just going to say a little shout out to nobody because I can't say who it was, but we had some people tell us that we were getting Jordan. I said, what, we were just talking about different people. And this was a couple weeks ago. And I kind of knew who he was, kind of didn't, and I was like, well, what about the corner from LSU? I was like, do you feel good that we're going to get him? And he was like, yeah, I feel good. And I was like, okay, how good's good? And he's like 95% good. And I was like, wow. I was like, if Tennessee gets this kid, I said, I'll be pumped just because of it's a corner. It's a great battle to win over. And even you and I were like 95%. We'll believe it when we see it. Like,
yeah, exactly. I'm like, how the heck do you know that?
Yeah, because that's just how recruiting is. Like, it's just like, people can feel because, we've also heard that we have felt really good about other players. And then they don't end up committing here. But so the number one thing that I loved about Jordan, not even talking about his film, was that he's the number one corner in all of Louisiana. Yeah. So that was one thing that you didn't mention, and I was happy that I got to mention it because, bro, it just might be me, but always growing up in these past 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, when you hear of DBs from the state of Louisiana or players from the state of Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, those guys are just that state, bro, all those states I just mentioned. So the fact that he's the number one corner in Louisiana, that means he's an absolute player.
Yeah.
The second thing is that he chose Tennessee. Like LSU wasn't even the picture. I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know if they just didn't recruit him, if they dropped the ball, if he said, hey, I'm not, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. I would love to ask Jordan one day, like, why wasn't LSU in the picture? But like that just stuck out to me. Like I remember seeing his Twitter for the first time and it said, Jordan Matthews, and it said number one corner in Louisiana. And I was like, okay, wait, a lot of these kids put a lot of stuff on their bios. Is this real? And so I looked it up and it was like, he's the number, like, I have it, let's see, 8th player. So he's the number 8th overall player in Louisiana, which is still fantastic. He's top 10, but he's the number one corner. So that alone was amazing. I mean, the offer list is insane. I mean,
I threw those out there. I knew that was one missing part from having Reed on the show. It's like I got to throw that.
And I appreciate you doing that because he just feels as blue chip as it gets. Like he feels like a 5-star when I'm watching this film. And okay, so Tennessee, Michigan, Stanford, Alabama. I mean, it's nice. It's nice when there's a Bama offer, bro, because there's some of these guys that we watched their film and we really liked, and they didn't have a Bama offer or Georgia offer, but bro, he's got everybody. Like he's got anything. He had the Louisiana. It looks like they recruited him. He didn't take a visit there, but they have the little coaches that actually recruited him. This is huge. This is huge, and I'll let you.
I almost feel like he might not be a 5-star just because they've like already given out so many 5-stars. You know what I mean? Like,
dude,
like his offer list, the fact that he's number one corner, he's from Louisiana, a very big state of recruits. He's the number one corner, his offer list and his play. You think he'd be a 5-star.
Bro, I'm so happy you just said something there because this is something that I was going to bring up at some point. I've been thinking about it. We always say, like, we were talking about one of those receivers And we were talking about, the difference between being a 3-star and a 4-star and a 5-star. And it just hit me like like a week or so ago. We haven't talked about it yet, but like we say, like, why is he not a 5-star? I'm pretty sure. I don't know this. I've counted, but I don't know if this is the exact number. I think they only give out like 25 stars.
Yeah.
Like, so like when you get, when these schools get 1 or 2 5-stars, it's huge because they just don't give many out, which I'm happy they don't give many out. But I think people forget that, like, so I was so happy you just said that.
Yes. That is something that I realized later on. Was like, oh, they only give out a certain amount of 5 stars, which makes sense. It's like, hey, you're the best of the best. So
yeah. And if I counted it, so I think what I did was a very quick couple weeks ago when I thought about this, and I just looked at like the top 100 on whatever site, and I think I used like the first 20, maybe first 21, 22 that were 5 stars, and that's it. So it's like there's not many of them to go around. And I know that there's a way that you can look at higher level 4 stars or lower level 4 stars. I don't know how to do that. Maybe it's on here. But anyways, what'd you say?
I don't know how to do that, man. You know me. I'm until I get an update that says this person committed to Tennessee, I'm not worried about nobody.
Same. But what I meant was it might be like really easy for us to find. It might literally be like on here and it like lists their rankings. And so someone listening could be like, guys, you don't have to find anything. It tells you, but we don't pay attention enough of that. Yeah. So before I start running the clips and kind of talking about them just briefly, what I remember from watching was, like I said, how easy and effortless it was, but the hips, the feet, being in the hip pocket, his awareness, his ability to see the field. That's another thing that a lot of people don't maybe realize if they didn't play football or, maybe didn't play a ton of sports, and that's okay. I mean, you don't have to play to be a huge fan of certain things. And one thing that I thought was funny that you said, you're like, I'm slow as molasses and these knees aren't getting up very high. And I wasn't this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's an idiot. You were super athletic for normal people, and you were still athletic for a college player. I mean, you're a 2-time all SEC. So you were like really knocking yourself, but like you're a fantastic player. But it was funny you saying that, acting like that. But there's some people who are good football players, and there's some people that are just good athletes. But then, like, I guess sometimes the one that makes people great is because they have all those attributes, but then they see the field really well. Yeah. And so, like, you were talking about how you were just a technician, and it didn't make me laugh when you're like, hey, I'm stronger than a lot of these people I'm going against, which true, you were very strong. And I just have to say this too, like, it's the most Kyler Curtis thing in the world that you played left tackle, because like you should have been playing guard. And like, if you really wanted to be a dick and like, hey coaches, like I'm going to play guard because that's the best for me in my future, you kind of in a way like sabotaged, a potential NFL career just for the betterment of Tennessee. Because if you had 2 full years of playing and practicing at guard, you don't know where you would have been, because that's what your body type is for. So anyways, so you gave your all for Tennessee.
That's fucking right, I did. You better fucking remember, Bacon.
Yeah. So, but you were talking about you being a technician, and I was thinking, for myself, I was like, that's so funny, because like, and I don't even like putting us in the same category because you're much better than I ever was. But the only reason that I was halfway decent or could compete at a defensive backfield with my lack thereof, speed or whatever, was because how I saw the game. And it was just something that, like, I was just fortunate, like growing up, like I just kind of saw the game well. And so it's nice to see when you have a freak show who's a 6'1", 180 corner who moves like water, Arian Foster style. Like he's just so fluid and so nice.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like, he's listed at 6 foot, and the guy who told us that he was going to be a commit, like he said, like he's actually closer to 6'2". I was like, oh my. Yeah.
Well, and like the long arms and all that stuff. But when you can move like he can at his size, that's why you're that's why you are what you are. And also the person that told us, hold on. Sorry, I was playing this huddle. The other person that told us is, this coaching, because I was saying, like, I was kind of like jaw dropped it at him, and they're like, dude, this coaching staff thinks he could be a future first rounder. And I hear a lot of nonsense like that, but this time I heard that and I was like, yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because of how he moves. So anyways, I have it pulled up. I love that you said hip pocket. Another thing that you brought up, which was fantastic, is the lack of interceptions.
Yeah.
Bro, if people like aren't going to throw, and the first thing I could think about was when Harrison was a senior, when I was a freshman, and you were still in 8th grade, so you weren't there yet, and he was playing safety. Well, I remember the first couple games of the year.
For those that don't know, Harrison Smith went to Knoxville Catholic, went to Notre Dame, was a starter there. He's now the starting safety for the Minnesota Vikings, has been there for a decade and is an all-pro safety. He went to Knoxville Catholic. He was the original just god of Knoxville Catholic, original best football player to ever come out of there. But Reed was a freshman while Harrison was a senior.
Right. So, yeah, and I'm just going to say it. Harrison might screw around and end up getting some Hall of Fame talks. I'm not saying I don't know if he deserves it or not. He's a fabulous, fantastic player. He's been incredible. But like you said, bro, you're in the NFL at the top of the league for a decade. I mean, it's impressive what he's done. So
multiple times he's been on that like top 100 list.
Yeah, and he's an all-pro, Pro Bowl, all that stuff. So, but what was so funny is we would be the first game of the year, the Jamboree. I forget who we were playing. In first play, they try to say it's almost like I could hear these coaches in the locker room and warming up to playing us and being like, they got that Harrison Smith. We don't care. We're going right at him. We're going to test him early. And it's like, hey, that sounds good and great, but like there's good players, and then there's 6'3", 205, runs a 4.3, that are totally different. Like I said, there's good safeties in high school, and then there's this. And I remember they first play the game, they dropped back and they tried to run a go route and they threw it, and he was just like waiting and picked it off, and it was just like the easiest thing in the world. And then we go to the actual first game of the year, and like first play of the game, they try to go a go route at him, like they're going to test him. And both these teams end up blasting them, beating them by like 50. So it's not like it was like a Maryville or another good program in East Tennessee, but it was just funny. And that's what I thought about when you're talking about, they're just not probably testing Jordan. Like they're just not going to really throw his way. Like what's the point of doing that? But so anyways, it's the total package of the feet, the hips, the eyes, the awareness, the ball skills on the very first one where he stays hip pocket, goes up and does it. I mean, this one right here, he's playing straight up man coverage. Guy tries to get in. You know how impressive it is when he's in man coverage and they try to run a slant. And like, it's so easy to complete a slant on somebody, and you can still have good coverage and make a tackle, but like they throw it and he's like behind it, bats it down, super easy.
Yeah.
His technique looks good. He moves his feet well. He doesn't get super handsy. Another one right here, they're at the goal line. They try to run a slant on the inside. Pop, kind of reads his feet. So he's not even backpedaling, which where he is, you're not supposed to backpedal if you're on the 10-yard line because you're going to give them. So and this is what they used to teach us as safeties, is like you kind of, which I hated it. It terrified me because I'm like, coach, like I'm going to have to open up my hips. If not, like this guy's leaving me.
Yeah.
But so anyways, he's popping his feet, sees it. They go in. It's so easy. It's a batted ball. In high school football, you should be able to complete it, and he stops it. I love that he has the block kicks on here. You didn't mention that either, did you? Did you mention?
I did not mention the block kicks. No. But I do think that's very impressive.
Yeah. I thought you were going to mention it because that's the thing that you were going to say. Like, hey, he's playing hard on. A guy like his caliber could just be like, all right, we gave up a touchdown. He's going to catch his breath. Like, no. Like he's going to give all-out effort on special teams. He's the best player on the field, and he's out there making difference, blocking PATs that could really change the game. So, and it's not just one; he's got a couple on here, which is just super impressive. So love to see that. I mean, I know you mentioned about the tackling and hitting. I actually thought his hitting was pretty good. I mean, he kind of wraps people up. He tackles pretty high on a couple of them where he's just like chesting them up, like hitting them. It's like, which is great to see.
I wasn't even – that's what I was saying. I was like, I guess if you had to typecast him, he would be a cover corner, but that doesn't mean he can't tackle. I just wouldn't be like, hey, this guy's he's going to come up and hit somebody kind of thing.
I'm not – he's not a cover corner. He's not anything corner. He's the whole package.
Okay.
Because he does come up. He does break down. He has great technique. Hell, I love when the guys come and fly in and chop the legs out and get all fired up. It's like, bro, he didn't even have to do that. Like, cause he comes up, he sets his feet, tackles with his chest, throws the guy, to the side. It's really, really impressive. I don't want to continue to go on too much because we got a lot to talk about. And you've said it, I've said it, but like, this is someone that I'm going to be so excited to see when he gets on campus. Yeah. And Kyler, I would not be shocked. And this is not knowing anything about him. This is not ever talking to him. The way he plays, it seems like he picks up the game well. I would not be shocked if he's playing a lot of football as a true freshman. That's just me. I don't know what your thought is on that, because playing a lot of football as a true freshman is tough, but playing a lot of football as a true freshman at corner is very tough. But, like, I just don't see any weaknesses in his game. Even if you're this talented, you might be a little lazy or you might not have to do it because it's something easy. But, like, I love this play here where they roll out to the left and then they break all the way to the right. And this should be a wide open touchdown. He gives all he's got to fly way back over there and bat the ball away. Same thing I said about the effort on the PAT. But I don't know. What would you think? Like, did you think he was good enough to be like, okay, I could see him playing early?
I think he is good enough in and of himself, but like my thought process is, okay, who stays from this year? Like, who's still here? Who doesn't like transfer or doesn't try and go to the NFL or all that kind of stuff? And like, are they 3 years worth of experience? Are they 2 years worth of experience? Like, that kind of sets it up to where it's like hard for him to start. Like, I remember committing and going to Tennessee and thinking to myself, like, oh, yeah, this offensive line room is young, so I'm going to have a chance to start. But it's like, no, all you did was go into a place where the guys ahead of you were starting for a year, so they have more experience than you, so they're already 1 year ahead. Like, you need to go to a place that's graduating a lot of people to where it's unknown who's good and who's not. So I think it's just if it lines up correctly. But hell, if it does, I'm not going to be mad if he starts. I'll be mad if he gives up a touchdown, but like, I'm not going to be like, oh no, we can't do that. We can't start afresh. Like, he looks great.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, all I can say is I'm excited because it's a total package. Like, I think he's a really good open field tackler. I think he hits well too. Like, he's not just a good tackler. Like, he's blasted a couple of people. Hell, I saw one of those clips running around Twitter the other day. I guess it was his first game of this year, and there's a dude going down the other sideline, and he comes out, and it looks like he must have been the backside corner, but it looks like he's coming down from a safety position. I'm not saying he was playing safety. I'm saying that's how it kind of looked, and he murders Buddy. He's just out there like just toying with kids, and like, so we'll lose. Who's still there? Warren Burrell is still there. Warren. And then I guess maybe Kamal Haddon or Brandon Turdage might come back and stuff like that. And I feel really good about some of the young safeties and some of the young options that we have down at the star position. But yeah, I just don't even like talking that way because it's like you don't want to get excited for someone.
True.
But
it's signed, so it's right. Like,
Well, but yeah, I know he's signed, but I just don't want to be one of those guys that's like, oh yeah, can you please close that door back? I don't want to be one of those guys that's like, oh, I can't wait for this player to get here because it's gonna be incredible, and then 2 years down the road we don't hear from him. But I would be shocked if that was this kid because of everything that you see and the competition and how well he plays, and he doesn't have a weakness in his game. So anyways.
Okay, now let's go into Rickey Gibson, who I absolutely loved and thought he had the coolest name for a corner. But what did you think about his highlight tape if you got a chance to watch it?
Yeah, so I did get to watch it. I've got it pulled back up. You were talking about it is a great name, and all I could think about when I hear Ricky is see if you know what movie this is. He's like, Ricky Tan, come on, get on up. We've been looking for you everywhere. Come on, stand on up.
I don't know what that is.
So it's in Rush Hour 2, and the bad guy's name's Ricky Tan. And you've seen the Rush Hours, haven't you?
Yeah.
And so Chris Tucker's getting all pissed off because he's over in I guess Japan or China or wherever he's going to with Jackie Chan they're supposed to be on vacation, but Jackie is still working, and so they go into the Heaven on Earth massage parlor.
Oh yeah.
And they finally find him, and Chris Tucker walks in. He's like, Ricky, come on, stand on up. I've been looking for you. He's like, don't let this robe fool you now, boy. So, anyways, first to talk about Ricky. I don't want to. It's hard to talk about him and make it sound like that after talking about Jordan. So what I've seen from Ricky, and I know you like him a lot because the way he plays, also because he messaged you about the video, so you probably love that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm going to be honest. I think Ricky has fantastic film as well, and I think he told you that this was his first time playing corner. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to tell people the first 3 clips on his huddle, just the first 3, I absolutely love them and think it's fabulous. Like, so the first play, he's getting his read steps. It's an out route. He comes up, makes a great hit, and it's like 1, 2, 3 read steps, puts his foot in the ground, sees it, bang. Like a lot of people, that's just going to be a catch and a tackle. I'm like, no, he comes up and finishes it and brings the wood. Yeah. So I like that. It's like, okay, it's a good little start. This next one, he's in man coverage, it looks like. I mean, I just wish I could stress how hard man coverage is to people. It's
ridiculous.
Not only how difficult it is, but like how scary it also is because of it is so easy to get open in man coverage as a receiver because you know what you're doing. They don't. And I thought about this with these 2 guys, and we were talking about with Jordan and Ricky, and how good some of these corners are. And I was like, you get paid millions and millions of dollars in the NFL to get beat. And you're like, wait, to get beat? Yeah, because even the best of the best corners, they still all get beat.
Jalen Ramsey gets beat all the time.
Right. And so it's like, whether it's Jalen Ramsey or Tre'Davious White or A.J. Terrell with the Falcons or Casey Hayward for a long time, like whoever, my guy growing up, Champ Bailey, like all those guys, like you're still going to get beat because of how difficult the position is. It's like you're just great because most guys might get beat 4, 5, 6 times a game, and you might get beat once.
Yeah.
So it's just like people just don't understand how hard it is. And the fact that he's on the wide side here, on the second play, wide side, he sits there, he gets his read steps, the receiver's trying to release outside on him, he gets a little hand on him. Neither of these guys hold or get super handsy. Like they have their hands on them, but these guys don't pull, hold, or whatever. This is the most prototypical high school play. They're trying to roll out to the side, run a little out route. It's a very, very easy play for an offense to run in high school. And Ricky is sitting so perfect hip pocket. He turns around. He looks like he's running the route he could be the receiver, and he jumps in and gets his hands on the ball. And then third play. So we have an out route that he made a hit, knocked out the ball. Then he has one that he's showing where his feet are great, his techniques are good, hands. And then this next one, bro, where he's showing the top version and he's showing that he's reading number, because that's a lot of times that's how we're taught, depending on what coverage you're in. But if you read number 2, it's going to tell at safety for me, if I'm reading number 2, it's going to tell me what number 1's doing. So if number 2 goes out, most likely number 1's coming in, and right here he's sitting, he kind of runs with number 1, passes it off. He sees number 2's coming. And it looks like number 2's going to come on an out route. No, it's a wheel route. So he sees it, then he runs with it to show that his athletic ability. One thing that I love here, he's athletic enough and picks up on enough, but he kind of has that little bit of if the receiver was with him, he had that little bit where he's running but kind of pinching the receiver up against the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I mean, up against the out of bounds.
Yeah,
you're always told as a corner or defensive back, when you turn and run, if you can just you're not pushing, it's more of a guide. Let's kind of close out that space. And if the receiver was there with him, he was pushing out and kind of, but he was in front of the receiver and ends up making an interception and basically ran the play for him. I just really, really like what I see from him. I think he's fantastic. Like you said, you love how he plays, comes up, makes tackles, make hits. He's got really good recognition. I think he has good ball skills. Plays the ball well.
That he's predominantly been a wide receiver before and not a corner. And like his knowledge of offense is like leading him towards like, oh, if I was a wide receiver, I would be making this cut for an out route. I would be making this cut for this. And he kind of like picks up on those kind of things. And because it shocked me when he told me like, hey, this is the first year I played corner. Like that shocked me because I was like, well, you're playing like you know what's going on. You know how to play corner. And my thought process is you can know how to play corner by playing wide receiver well. And just know that, like, hey, this is what I would hate if I was a corner, and this is where a corner needs to be on a route, per se.
So, in my opinion, from playing defensive back and receiver, I think that sounds better than it actually really helps because they are two totally different positions. No, don't get me wrong. Like, it's still nice to know and to be able to see the game and think about. I think it's more about doing little things that receivers aren't going to like. So that's one thing that he knows, like what he knows that he wants to, like, a receiver wants to get an outside release. Maybe he knows how to maybe stop that. Or if a receiver's trying to get inside of him on inside release, he maybe knows how to like play that. So, but I think kind of once you're out there and once it's go time, like you're not necessarily thinking certain things. I don't know. That's just my opinion. But I just think, it's crazy that this is his first year playing it because it looks very, very natural to him, like with his hands, with his feet, with the just reading of the plays. Like this interception right here is child's play. Like he's backside, he's got good feet, he's watching the receiver while watching the quarterback, which is very, very, very tough to do because you hear that, don't get caught looking. Don't get your eyes in the backfield because as corners and safeties, we always want to be looking at the quarterback because then we think, well, we're watching the quarterback, we're going to bait him and, jump a route type deal. Well, the 1 second you start looking in the backfield and you thought the receiver was running a 10-yard out, well, he's just cut it up and now he's 5 yards down the field and you're about to get burnt and be on a highlight reel. So it's really tough. It's like this weird spidey sense that you have to have, like with your feeling and knowing where people are and all that stuff. They didn't attack Jordan a lot. I don't know why these people were attacking Rickey a lot because he's interception after interception, goes up high, points the ball. That's something that maybe helped it, from playing receiver to how to high point a ball, go up, make catches, jump routes, all stuff like that. I mean, dude, this one where they try to run like a little option his way, and this is some coaching right here because he's got his eyes in the backfield. He sees this motion. So I don't know if they were about to bring him on a blitz, which – that'd be a tough blitz because he's on the wide side, but he sees it. This is maybe just good recognition on his part, but they try to run this little option play. You can see his eyes watching the guy that was in motion, and then he comes off of him when he sees the ball, comes up, makes a great hit, great tackle. I mean, dude, both these guys are players that we would have loved to play with. Like, oh yeah, like they're just, I could go on and on about these two guys all the time. I think they're both fabulous. I think they're fantastic. Matter of fact, I'm going to stop watching this right now because I can just go on, and we got to talk about
yeah, we'll be here forever.
Yeah. Listen, why he's a 3-star, I don't know. I don't care. I think he's got good size at 6'1", 170. I love how he plays. I love how fluid he is. Offer list, I'm happy that we got him, over Arkansas. Which
there's a couple on there.
Yeah, but... I mean, Arkansas, he's from Alabama. So it's like, we're closer. We're a hell of a lot closer than Arkansas is. But Arkansas is still kind of right there with us, meaning they still got some hype about them. There's a lot of predictions about them. So, to get it over Arkansas is great. I mean, he had an Auburn offer. He had a Georgia offer, bro. I don't know how hard they recruited him, because a lot of times, like, these guys have offers, and they might really like him. But say if another corner or another person is already committed before Rickey or Jordan were ready to commit, then they're like, okay, well, that's kind of, how it is. Like, they could be two off the tackles that they really, really like. But if they offer you and another guy, but Kyler's not ready to commit and they get the other guy, then you're kind of off the board. So I think it's, Florida State, Georgia, like I said, Auburn's on there. A lot of the SEC schools. I think it's a really good list. I do. And I think Rickey's, I'll be excited to keep up with him, see how he does this year. And I think he's going to be a stud. And a lot of these senior highlight reels are going to be fun to go back and watch, after the season.
Oh yeah, definitely. Before we get into our season predictions, we go game by game. News that just came out today: Lyn J Dixon is no longer a part of the team. Running back transfer from originally Clemson. Okay. Like, we didn't gain anything to lose anything. So it's just kind of like, what are you going to do about it? I have no idea why he's no longer part of the team. It does come out on a Sunday. Maybe something happened on a Saturday night, but I don't know that because I know that was a trend for a certain amount of time that, Sunday suspensions were because of Saturday nights. But on to the next one. We got 4 scholarship running backs, so we'll be all right. We'll be fine.
I mean, it's not ideal.
Not ideal. No, definitely not.
I mean, I would like to maybe have 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But, listen, we talked about it and we said, okay, great. Like, it's awesome. I was like, we need depth. He's played a lot of meaningful football, but you and I both are pretty hard critics or hard skeptics. I mean, if you were at West Virginia for a little bit and now you're here, like, I was even this way with Brew McCoy. I was kind of like, what's been going on here? There's a lot of, whether it's the whole saga with some of these players that they're here and they're there, they commit here, then they leave and all that stuff. And I was like, hey, we didn't get to see really anything in practice because he was there and he was still working, but it was obvious that they were just trying to get him up to speed was the best way I can say it. And he wasn't huge. He wasn't as big as I thought he was going to be, but he was another body, and that was nice, but it is what it is, man. I mean, this is what happens. And I'll tell you this, the one good thing about this is it still shows me that this coaching staff is like, hey, you need us more than we need you. Like, not one player is bigger than this program. And I love that. And I love that. We don't have the best depth right now in that running back room. They took this kid. They gave him an opportunity. You weren't giving us an opportunity. You were not giving the University of Tennessee an opportunity. Those coaches gave you an opportunity. They thought you could help. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. So if there was something else that was maybe mutual or whatever, okay, then I'll say, hey, I was wrong. But just how it looks, see ya. Like, that was probably your last opportunity to maybe try something in the pros. Yeah. Whatever. So it's, we need some more players, and he had played a lot of ball, so it'd been nice to have him. But, if you're going to make this team worse than because of off the field stuff or locker room stuff, exactly. Deuces. See you later.
We'll see you, dear. Yeah. So I feel the exact same way. I'm not overly concerned about it. Not super worried about it. It happens. And I like the fact that the coaching staff was like, hey, if you ain't for us, you're against us. So, all right.
So funny.
Good stuff.
So funny. We were talking about Lyn J. I knew we had to talk about it. I'm still here just sitting here watching Rickey's film. I could just watch Rickey and Jordan play corner all the time. I like you said too, I love how Rickey shoots his gun, man. Like, when he sees it, he goes. There's not any false steps with either of these guys.
That's right. That's the DB in you. Wanted to watch more DV.
Hold on. Did you talk about when he stripped, buddy? I'm just now getting back to this. I forgot about this. Did you talk about it?
I don't know if I did mention the strip.
Oh my God, how sexy is that? That is all. And he, you know what? He had some block PATs too.
Oh, I did mention that. I did mention that because he set the edge, guy cut inside, then he chases him down and rips the ball out. I did talk about that.
What a freaking stud, bro. I mean, don't quit on a play. Yeah, you did. I remember you talking about it. All right, let's get our break. Listen, folks. So this is just going to be, we're going to kind of go through. We're going to do what everybody does when schedules come out and you're sitting around with your buddies and you're like, win, loss, win, loss, whatever. So we're going to kind of predict how we feel like this season's going to go. But obviously the week of the games is when we're going to give you more of a breakdown.
Yeah, a lot more. So starting with week 1, really not going to give any breakdown here because next week pod will be about this. But Ball State, first game of the season, Thursday night. That's a win. Pretty obvious. Pretty obvious win there. I think there's like different categories throughout every season where it's like definite wins, borderline, and then like losses. It's a miracle kind of if you win. For most teams, I think, the Ohio State and Alabamas of the world don't really have that sectioned off like that. But Ball State win. We will get more into it next week. We'll talk about their quarterback and their offensive line, their defensive line, whatever they might run, all that kind of stuff. But this will be a win.
I mean, is it my turn? Win.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I was waiting.
So we're 1-0. We're 1-0 on our predictions.
1-0, baby.
And listen, on next week's pod, since we'll be talking about that game, I do want to go ahead and we'll talk about, how you feel about Thursday night games. As both players, how awesome it was when you were ready for the first game because A, Mick Camp was done, but B, you were just so ready for all the work that you've been putting in, and you're like, finally, it's here. Let loose.
Exactly. Okay.
I have such a problem. I got to turn this off, bro.
You got to stop watching Ricky's film, man. You're getting a damn boner underneath the table.
Bro, the play where he sets the edge.
And then he chases the guy down from behind?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
How insane is that? He sets the edge, and then the guy's like, oh, shit. And he tries to reverse field, and Ricky just hawks him and makes like a TFL on the opposite side. Tell Ricky, since Ricky DM'd you, just tell him we love him. I mean, we love him and Jordan. This is fantastic. Some of these DBs and corners that we have are I am officially going to turn it off so I don't interrupt it again. But these guys are awesome. And someone did put in the mentions in the YouTube comments, like, do we think we can hold on to these guys? That's a great point. I hope that I like our class a lot. So I hope we can, keep these guys that we forget they're committing now, but they don't, we got to keep them all the way until signing.
We're going to be nice to these boys. We're going to stroke those egos a little bit.
Which is not what I'm doing. That's not my job. That's the coaching staff to have to do that. I'm just being honest what I see.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing too. Okay, second game at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is ranked number 17 in the AP polls. Even after losing Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison, their big 2 losses. Pitt is still seen as like a very good team, but like I really don't think they're as good as they are being portrayed. Like Pat Narduzzi lost his offensive coordinator and even was upset that his offensive coordinator didn't run the ball more. And it's like, dude, you're in the ACC championship game. Like, you were ACC champions, which you beat Wake Forest 45-21. And it's like, you guys had one of the best offenses. Kenny Pickett was considered and talked about in Heisman stuff. And, Pat Narduzzi's still we didn't run the ball enough. That just gives me that Butch Jones feel a little bit. Where it's well, we didn't do this. I'm like, who gives a fuck if we didn't do that? We won. We won a lot of games. We had really good players on our team. We won a championship. Like, why the fuck are you complaining about the other stuff? And I mean, I think this is going to be a running, like I think they're going to pay attention to the run. I think they're going to be a running team. They return all 5 offensive linemen, quarterback, big wide receiver gone. They're going to try and slow down the game on us, but I still feel very confident because I would consider them technically a worse team than they were last year, and I would consider us a better team than we were last year. And we were this close, and our actually good starting quarterback came in halfway for the game. So it's like, I think we actually have a better chance of winning this one.
I think we win, and I think we win somewhat easy.
Okay. What do you think, like 14?
I think we're going to win by like 10, 14, maybe 17. And even if it's only a 7 or 10 point game, I think as a fan, I don't think this is one of those that I'm going to be nervous about because I feel like we're going to just kind of be winning. This is a revenge game for me. And we'll talk about it the week of that game. But I remember fast forward or kind of backtrack a year ago and what I thought about this game and how completely different it is. And yes, I feel like we're a much better team. I don't think they're as good. They can't be as good because they just lost one of the best players they've had in multiple years or maybe even in their program history at quarterback. And I don't like Pat Narduzzi. And if I wasn't going to a couple of another away games already, I would go to this game. I want this game bad because they got lucky last year. That's how I look at it. So yes, I do think that we win.
Yeah.
And I'll finish. I'll tie this in at the end of the podcast. I love that we're not ranked. I love it. But I can promise you, I think we're going to be ranked after we go up there and give them an L on their home field.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially if they're, they play West Virginia their first game, which I love because it gives us a look at, like, what they're going to look like. They're not playing a cupcake. They can't just, like, go out there, run a 4-3 defense, and they actually run a bear. Or, like, go out there and just run inside zone when they actually do a lot of counter and power. Like, they have to actually run their entire offense, run their entire defense. Like, we played Oklahoma my senior year. They played a cupcake their first week. We were their second game, and they ran a 4-3 defense versus that team. They hadn't run a 4-3 defense in a decade, and they ran a 4-3 defense versus that team because they knew we're not going to give film to Tennessee when we play them. So,
were you there the year that we played them here in Knoxville?
Yeah, it was my last year.
That's right. Yeah, I choked on, not from you, but from Butch.
Oh, I know it's not from me.
So Akron, that's a win. So we're 3-0 on both of our accounts.
That's right. One funny thing I noticed about Akron, I was like, they actually have like a LSU wide receiver and a Minnesota running back. And I was like, that's kind of a thing that I guess this transfer portal hasn't really known is like random teams that you think are bad might just have like 1 or 2 guys that are actually really damn good because they just transferred in so they could play. So it's like very kind of like, hey, watch out for that guy, whenever.
That's how it was last year. Towards the end of the year, I forget what team it was that we played, and they had those 2 receivers that were dogs, and we were kind of like, do you remember that? You remember that? It was towards the end of the year. I'll look up last year's schedule in a second. But anyways, yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. Big one. Florida at home, September 24th.
We're going to that one, right? You and I are going to that one. Did you talk to your wife yet? Make sure.
I will talk to her. Yes.
You better.
This is monumental game for Tennessee, for the direction of the program, for Josh Heupel. I think we win this game. I think in Neyland, I think Florida is way worse than they were last year. I do not believe in Anthony Richardson. I do believe in our team. I think we're a lot better. And I love that they play Utah first. I love that they play Utah. I love that we get Utah film. I love that Utah is up-tempo. They're an actually good team. And it makes me feel better about get the film. Let's see what they're like. Let's see what they're doing. I do expect a lot of running the ball from Florida and a lot of quarterback run from Florida with Anthony Rich because that's what Billy likes. That's what Billy Napier likes.
Billy, 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 Billy. Oh, Billy, Billy, Billy. So last year, what I couldn't think of, it was South Alabama. So we ended up beating the heck out of them, but they did have the one receiver that was, whatever, supposed to be a first or second round draft pick, or I don't know what ended up happening. But yes, you're right. There are some of these guys that are like, oh, wait, that guy is a stud or whatever.
Yeah.
So here's another one of my hot takes that I personally don't feel like a hot take. And I got a lot of buddies that are like, I'll believe when I see it. And listen, that is totally fair. To say we will believe it when we see it. They've beaten us 14 out of 15 times in the past 15 years or whatever. This is another one just like Pitt. I think we blast Florida. I think it's a perfect storm. I think we're on the up, they're on the down. We catch them at home. I think we win this game by 10, 14, 17 points. I really, really do. Like, I feel that in my heart, which is probably a bad thing because most of the time when I feel really good about a game, we don't play great. And then other times I'm nervous. We end up blasting them. Like last year, I was nervous about Missouri. We killed them. Nervous about South Carolina. We killed them. Felt really good about Pitt in a certain way last year. But, I think we beat them. And I think we're 4-0 going into at LSU.
I mean, that's a pretty big prediction to say it's like the same as Pitt, like, 10, 14 points. But I love it. I absolutely love it.
I really am. I mean, we had a good team last year. I mean, they were a pretty darn good team. Should have been probably 8 wins or maybe even 9 because of Pitt and the bowl game. Yeah. And like I said, with the more depth that we have, I think that is going to help tremendously on the quarterback runs against Anthony Richardson or against some of these other teams, and just that depth. Like I said, the only thing, and we'll talk about this, but I'm still slightly worried about offensive defensive line, interior wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, my gut feeling is I think we beat Florida. I think it's going to be a great night. I think you and I will be leaving that game getting ready to throw some brews back.
I love that. Okay, so next up, LSU. At LSU, that's the concerning part that for me, that's what makes me kind of like, because it's there. I hope to God it is not a night game. I hope it's an early game and we're able to knock it out. But I do think that we can win this. I think there's so much unknown about LSU that we can take advantage of that and we can actually win this game because they're still figuring out their quarterbacks. They're still figuring out, their running back might be out with injury. They lost a bunch of corners. They have literally no SEC starts on the offensive line. So it's like they have a lot of new things that they're trying to figure out. So I think we can take advantage of that.
Well, yeah, and they're supposed one of their quarterbacks just quit football. The Miles Brennan kid who was supposed to be competing for their starting job just quit this week or whatever. So obviously that's not great. This is one that I will probably end up – I don't think we're going to win. And so this will be the one game that I predict that we win, and we'll go down there and beat them probably. This is one of the away games that I am going to this year, so I do hope it's a night game or at least 3:30 because I'm selfish and I want to experience that.
Yeah, Death Valley at night.
But this is my Florida game, meaning I'll believe it when I see it because I don't like Brian Kelly, but I do think he's a good coach, and I think I believe it when I see it. Like we're going to go into Death Valley and win, but yeah. But yes, I'm not as worried about it. It's not just an automatic L in my mind because they have lost a lot of people. There's a lot going on, whatever the case may be. But this is my first loss, so I will be predicting a loss here. What do you predict?
I think I'm going to go with a win.
Okay. Wow. So you have us 5-0.
Yeah, 5-0. Going to Bama. Well, not at Bama. Bama's home, but going into playing Bama. I like the fact that we're at home, but this team is stacked, dude. They're absolutely stacked. Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, arguably one of the best defensive players to come out of college football. Like people were looking at him like, why didn't he win the Heisman last year? And Will Anderson. And, they always got people waiting to take advantage of the opportunity to start wide receivers, offensive linemen, the linebackers, safeties. Like they were just in waiting with how many 4 and 5 stars every class has. So I think this is our first loss of the season. I think it's competitive because it's in Neyland, but I do think it's a loss.
Yeah, it's Bama, and Nick Saban's fabulous. Their depth chart is fabulous. I think we play them well. I think they end up winning by 14, 17, maybe even 21. I think one thing about that is so fortunate for Tennessee on this stretch of Florida, LSU, Bama, I think what is so huge about that Florida game, getting that win, is then we have a bye week. So if you can win Florida and go into that bye week going and having 2 weeks to prepare and rest
I think
up,
that's why I think we'll win that LSU game.
I think that's massive. I think it's massive. I don't know who LSU plays the week before or whatever. Hopefully it's at least an SEC opponent that'll give them a good fight. But yeah, this is my second loss for us.
Okay.
And this is
all
the
right.
first.
So I'm 5-1. You're 4-2.
Yep.
Tennessee Martin win.
Yep.
Put it down. I'm 6-1. You're 5-2. Kentucky. I'm saying win. We got him at home now. Will Levis is not that good of a quarterback. I don't know why people think he is. They have a new offensive coordinator this year. So it's like, okay, if your success last year, like you have a whole new offense. So good luck with that. They replace a lot of defensive line starters. They got 5 DBs that have experience playing, and 2 of them are transfers from other places. So it's like they don't really have a lot of depth. And they're replacing tackles on the offensive line. So I think we are way better than we were last year, and they're not nearly as good as they were last year, and we still beat them. So win again.
Once again, I feel great about this game. It's at home. We beat them last year. I think we're better this year. They're not as good. I think it's a win. They're still Kentucky, man. Like, we're still better than them. We still have that mental edge over them. I'm much more nervous for Missouri or South Carolina than I am Kentucky. And this is a sneaky finish to the year, like sneaky tough. Like after
I thought the same thing.
You kind of have a break on UT Martin week, but it's like you just went Florida, LSU, Bama, and now you got to go Kentucky, which at least will be a tough physical game, and then you go Georgia, Missouri, at South Carolina, and then we obviously finish up with Cupcake Vandy. But I think Tennessee beats Kentucky, and I'm not that worried about it.
No. Okay, going to Georgia. They've lost like 19 former starters on this team, but they're still so good, so loaded. They've had so many recruiting classes in the top 3 over the past few years. Like they're number 3 Georgia for a reason. I think we lose this game. I think this is our second loss. So I have a loss to Bama and a loss to Georgia. What say you?
Yeah, loss.
Yeah.
Loss.
Okay.
Loss. I think that it's at Athens. This is the other away game that I'm going to. I think we hit them in the mouth. I think we compete. It's November 5th, so it's kind of like, how is the season gone?
Yeah.
How are things still going or whatever? But I think the fact that we have to go down there, they're defending national championship, defending champions. Excuse me, but yes, I think we take a loss there.
And I think like it's very much like, oh, what does this game mean? Like if we have one loss to Alabama, and we go in there, and maybe Georgia has no losses, it's like, well, maybe if we win this game, then we are in the SEC like championship talk. So it can be very important at the end of the season. Missouri. It's a win. I mean, Missouri's been bad recently. Their defense is like one of the worst. They were one of the worst last year. We just cooked them like crazy. The best player they had, that running back Batty, is gone. So, like, I think this is an easy win.
Same.
In Neyland, too.
Yeah, that's what makes me feel so good about this. We blasted them last year at their place. I think Eli Lamo-Witz is definitely going to want this one. he's going to be cooking everything up depending on how their season's going, if he's on a hot seat. But he's got a little lame-o in him, and it pisses me off because of how some of the stuff that he said recently and about the vacated wins. And I'm like, bro, you're talking about getting a win from us because we had vacated wins with Pruitt here when you just got drummed like a cajillion to nothing. And so, but I feel really good about this one because it's at home. So.
Yeah, exactly. At South Carolina, by this time we'll know who Spencer Rattler is, I guess. Is he good? Is he not good? But I still think this is a win. I don't know why, Shane Beamer gets a lot of hype over Heupel for some reason in certain instances. It's like, I don't know why. Like, you saw the game last year that we played. I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see South Carolina being a good team. And I think this is a win. I would consider this game easier than Kentucky, easier than Missouri might be, and Vandy would be the other easier SEC games. But besides that,
I'll be honest, I'm nervous about this one because of what we did to them last year. I'm nervous.
This is their revenge game.
Yes, and I'm nervous because I think Beamer's a pretty good coach. I mean, the fact that he's getting out what he like, that team, got better throughout the season last year. I mean, even the fact that team didn't quit on him when we were beating the absolute dog shit out of him early.
Yeah.
But I am nervous about this one. I think maybe I'm nervous because personally, like, I don't want to lose to Spencer Rattler. I don't want to lose to South Carolina. They shouldn't be in the same talks as Tennessee, in my opinion. Like, they've had some really, really good seasons. Like, since we've been, I don't know, past 10 years, 8 years while Tennessee's been down, they've had some good years. I mean, they beat Bama. They went to an SEC championship. Like, they've had some good times, but, like, I just don't want it to be a talk. So it's like I'm more confident that we beat Pitt and that we beat Florida than I am about this one. And it all could be just because of my nerves. So meaning, like, I don't want to lose to South Carolina. I don't want to lose to Spencer Rattler.
No, definitely not.
So to give my answer, don't want to lose to him, but I actually think we do. Maybe this is in August 21st. This is my way of trying to jinx us into a win, but I think we dropped this game, unfortunately.
I mean, are you just thinking like, hey, we're not going to be ready for it? Like, we're going to be kind of like viewing them as not.
No, I don't think that at all. I don't think
like South Carolina is going to be that good at that point.
I mean, Tennessee's getting a lot of good hype in a way. Like, I'm excited. I think there's some good stuff out there. And I think they have the capability to have a really good season. For me, a really good season will be 9 wins. 10 wins with even if we get 10 wins and that's including a bowl win, I will be freaking ecstatic. Like, I mean, that will be huge in my opinion. So even if we win 8 or 9 games regular season, like, let's not forget there's only year 2 of hype.
Yeah.
And, like, the reason I am feeling good about him is because I trust him so much on game day. But I'm also feeling good about this team because we have a senior quarterback who's really, who's a good player. Like, we got some guys that are good pieces, but that doesn't necessarily mean I think like, at South Carolina, we're just going to be able to walk in and beat them. Like, it's at South Carolina. Like, this has potential to be a 7:00 game and not a super easy place to play. Like, I don't think that we'll overlook them. I just could see it being a close game and them edging us out at the end. So, like, people like, I think Tennessee's going to have a good year, but that's my opinion of good could be different than someone else's opinion of good.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like, we still aren't where we need to be defensive line or offensive line to be 10-2 in a really close battle with Georgia and Bama type deal. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, I like I said at the start, there's games that for wins. There's games that are on the fence. And there's games that, like, hey, this is going to be almost impossible to win. I consider Pitt, Florida, LSU, Kentucky, South Carolina, 5 games being on the fence games of, like, we could lose, we could win. And I look through them and I look at their roster. I look at our roster. I look at our growth. I look at their growth. I look what they lost. I look what we lost. And I think we're better than Pitt. I think we're better than Florida. I think we're better than Kentucky. I think we're probably better than LSU, but I don't know about LSU. I don't know about their players as much, and we're at LSU. So that's what worries me more about that game. And then South Carolina, like, I feel the most confident that we're better than them. Like, I would be more nervous about Kentucky than I would South Carolina. But I don't know. I mean, by that time in the season, South Carolina could have 8 wins or, be on the rise, and Spencer Rattler could be doing very well for himself. And then it's very nerve-wracking. But as I look at it now, I just don't see a lot out of them. But
so let me ask you a quick question before we wrap this up. You're saying there's 5 games that you're kind of like toss-ups. Well, it's pretty funny because all 5 of those games you're giving us wins. The only losses that you're giving us are Georgia and Bama, and you're saying those aren't real toss-ups. So just think how sports work. Just think how competition works. That's basically you're saying that those are 5 toss-ups that could go either way, but yet you're picking us to win all of them. You don't think we drop one of them? And I don't want it to say he's just got too much orange in him. He's too much of a VFL.
Yeah.
Because last year you said we were going to go 5-7. I said 6-6, but I said I predicted it. So I predicted it right. I said I thought we'd have 7 wins with a bowl. Oh, I predicted it halfway right. I said I thought we'd have 7 wins, but that's including a bowl win. We actually had 7 wins and should have had 8. So like you said 5-7 last year. So you're not always drinking the Kool-Aid, but it sounds like right now. You're picking 5 swing games to go all our way. Like, that's not how sports works.
I mean, yes, that is technically correct. I am picking 5 swing games, but I mean, I feel like there's merit in those swing games. I know there's certain times where, I look at the roster. The reason why I thought 5-7 last year is because I looked at the roster. I watched them practice, and I was like, God, dude, there's literally nobody out here. Like, I know that Florida has better guys. I know that, Georgia has better guys. These other teams that we're going to play last year, I'm like, I know that they're going to beat us because of who they have versus who we have. I'm like, we don't have anything. We don't have enough. And now I look at the guys, I'm like, wow, we lost 2 people on defense and a wide receiver on offense and a tackle. We lost 4 total people that.
We lost 3 people on. Well, we lost Matthew Butler, Theo Jackson, and Alontae Taylor.
Yes. Okay. So we lost 5 total. We lost Matthew Butler, Theo Jackson, Alontae Taylor on defense. We lost Cade Mays and Velus Jones and Peyton also, but one and done. But we lost 5 guys. That's it. Literally looking it up, Georgia lost 19 former starters. 15 of them went to the draft. 4 guys transferred. That's huge. And it's just the second year just feels so much better. The fact that they're a year underneath it, the fact that almost all the starters are coming back, like that just gives me more confidence to be like, why couldn't we beat a first-year head coach in Billy Napier at Florida? Why couldn't we beat a first-year head coach at Brian Kelly and LSU, who – he's never coached an LSU team. He's coached Notre Dame teams. He's coached guys that have to get 3.8 GPAs to even freaking get in there, to stay in there. He's been, the smarty like that. Like, now he's down at LSU. It's just like you're a different coach down there than you are up at Notre Dame. Like, there's a reason why people have success in different places. Like, I just don't. Like, I know LSU is a hub for recruiting, but I don't think he's going to be their first year at LSU. So that's why I feel like we can win that game. I mean, they're still trying to figure out quarterback. They might be rotating their quarterbacks at that point. Once we get into that season, he still might be like, I don't know. Well, maybe this guy had a bad game. We're rotating this guy in. And, we saw how that worked for us last year. There's no SEC starts among the offensive line. They have 2 transfers on the offensive line from ETSU and Florida International that are going to start for them. So that makes me feel great. And they lost 4 corners from last year. They lost 4 corners that played and started. So it's like, I think we have a great chance versus them. And I don't know. I look at these games, I really break it down. And like Kentucky gets me more worried. They're replacing their tackles. They're replacing 3 of their 3 interior defensive linemen. Will Levis isn't that good. They do have a good running back, and their DBs aren't that great. So, our DBs are stacked. We have a huge depth at DB. Our defensive line is pretty much all returning except one guy. Our offensive line is 4 returners except one guy. Our quarterback is returning off a 30 touchdown, 3 interception season. And we have our best wide receiver back again in Cedric Tillman. So just like that stuff gives me confidence versus these other teams. When you talk about these swing games, I don't know. Like once you really look into it, that's why I'm picking them in our favor.
Totally get and understand. Like you said, like someone cannot list. Someone can't. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't know what the hell she's barking at. So anyways, to wrap this up, I totally get where you're coming from. And listening to you, I don't know how people could be like, no, I still disagree. Like you're making valid points. I guess I'm coming from it almost like in the way that I gamble. Like I'm just going to go off gut feeling. Yeah. Because like for me, like I want to go off gut feeling. If I sit here and diagnose everything and then I'll make a pick because it sounds like it's a logical pick, well, like sports aren't always logical. Like I'll lose more money when I'm like, oh, well, they have this guy out and they have this guy out. They have this, but it's like, no, like I just have that feeling that they're going to win the game for whatever reason. So you're coming more logical. I'm coming just gut feeling. So I totally get where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. And obviously I hope you're right because you have us going 10-2. If we go 10-2, I mean, I'll be pooping my pants everywhere. Like, I mean, I'll have to be getting some new britches, some new orange britches. But like I think we go 8-4. I think we have 9 wins with a bowl win, and you think we go 10-2. So that's our season predictions. I totally get where you're coming from. I appreciate too how you looked at everything. You saw who they lost. You saw this. You saw that. And maybe, you know what? I'll hold on to this, and then as the season goes on,
yeah,
we'll see. Like when we go into the LSU week, depending on how we are, I'm like, no, I think we're going to win the game. So it can change, but for right now, like
especially those later games, like that late slate you talked about, like Kentucky, Georgia, Missouri, South Carolina, Vandy, like that run, definitely. Halfway through the season, we'll be like, well, actually, Missouri is better than we thought, or South Carolina is better than we thought, or maybe they're not as good as we thought. So it like switches around. So who knows what might actually happen at that point.
Great to be back with you. I apologize to everyone. This was I was excited to be back, and it was not good that we had 2 corners, and I absolutely love their film, and so I just rambled on. I feel like I still left a bunch of stuff out there to be said. So for the haters that are mad that I'm back, I apologize to you all. Like if you really want Kyler to do it solo, then slide in his DMs and ask him to have a conversation with me. But I enjoyed to be back. It was great to be back, and so yeah. Anyways, good pod.
Love having you back. All right. Thank you guys for watching and listening. If you are watching, please subscribe, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, leave a comment. We love the comments. We love to answer them. Reed loves to answer them. I love to answer them. It's such a fun thing to interact with you guys. If you're listening, please rate and review. Give us 5 stars. Download, re-download. That always helps. And share with friends and family. Let them know we have this podcast going. Let them know that a VFL and his good friend who played football also are going to be breaking film down every week of every single game this season. And it's going to be in depth. It's going to be awesome. You guys are going to actually understand what's going on in certain plays. It is a fun thing for us, and I love to share with you guys. So super looking forward to that. If you want to follow us at Believe in Tennessee on Twitter for our main account, at rbacon26 Reed on Twitter, at Kyler Kerberson for all my accounts, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So follow me there. And just really appreciate every single one of you that listen and follow and comment and reach out. Like, y'all are the best. Seriously, the best. So As always, go Vols.